Hey, it's Ano. Welcome back to another video. Takt Op Symphony is one of the newer gacha games that just got released around a month ago as of this recording, and I've been playing it since day one since I am pretty interested in it, especially since I did watch the prequel anime for this, Takt Opus Destiny, and I really liked mostly the character designs. So when I heard that there was actually a gacha game sequel to it, I made sure that I play it. I really love the art style and the music for this, so I'm just here to make quick overall TLDR experience for the past few days with this game. Let's get on with the video. Alright, so what is Takt Opus Symphony? So basically it is an turn-based RPG with a very anime-esque aesthetic. First, let's talk about the story. I won't go too deep into the story, I'll just give a brief overview of it. As I mentioned, Takt Opus Symphony is supposed to be a sequel to the anime Takt Opus Destiny that aired around 2 years ago. So, as you may have noticed, it is a bit late. I mean, the anime was mainly made to advertise the game, so it's pretty weird that they released it 2 years later, but better late than never, I suppose. Takt Opus Symphony story happens 20 years after the anime, a pretty good amount of time. The main character for this one isn't actually the typical self-insert because he does actually have a name. The MC for this game is Takt Asahina. If you've watched the anime, you probably know who that is since he is the MC in the anime also. Slight anime spoilers. Takt actually just woke up from his cryo sleep. When he woke up, apparently he lost all of his memories. So if you're worried that if you have to watch the anime to get this game, don't worry, since it's basically a clean slate. So you don't really have to watch the anime to get the story of the games. He is in Symphonica, a place in Berlin. And they are basically the main organization fighting against the Despair Dolls. Now, what are the Despair Dolls? The Despair Dolls are basically like the main threat in the story. They're the main enemies in the game that you fight. And the reason why Symphonica is the main organization fighting against the D2s, they are the only ones that can produce what's called music cards. Now, what are music cards? Music cards are basically the playable characters in this game, so they're the ones that you pull in the gachas and control in the battles. Music cards themselves are humans, but the main difference is they completely forgot how they were as humans, and then they are possessed by music scores. That's why if you've noticed, the name of the characters in this game are actually named after classical scores like Carmen or Jupiter. That's one of the cool things that I really like about this game since I was a music student back in the day. So it really tickles the musician in me. So right now, the story isn't really that unique so far. I mean, you know, if you simplify it, it's basically your typical post-apocalyptic setting. But I think the story of this game has potential, especially since the story format of the game is actually cool. So right now, there's a total of 10 chapters, and at the end of each chapter there's actually like an episode preview, just like in an anime, so that's a pretty nice touch. The story is actually fully voiced. Most of the characters are voiced. The only exception is Takt himself. I'm not sure why, but maybe they just wanted to make it a bit easier to like self-insert, I guess. That's it for the story mainly. Alright, so let's move on to the gameplay. As I mentioned earlier, this game is a turn-based RPG, so it's pretty easy to get into. It's a very familiar gameplay system to most people nowadays. In battle, you do get to control up to 4 characters, and you can fight up to 4 mobs at max. And this game does have a positioning system. So basically that means when you're building your team, how you arrange your team is very important. I'm gonna go back to that once I talk about the different classes per character. Let's talk about the character kit. So each character has a total of 3 active skills, 2 passives, and 1 ultimate, which is called peak performance here. Now, I'm gonna talk about what the difference of a peak performance is compared to normal ult. A peak performance is basically an ult and an additional passive, basically. In battle, a peak performance passive is always active, and then when you can use the ult, it will come up when it's available. Peak performance can be upgraded once you upgrade the rarity of your characters first. I'll talk about it again later when I talk about the gacha system. Going back to the skills, now each skill, if you notice, they do have an assigned color. There's a total of 3 in this game: red, blue, and green. When you use a skill, you can accumulate the colors associated with that skill, as you can see on the top of the battle screen. Those are what you need in order for you to be able to use the peak performance or the ult in this game. Per character, there's a different amount that you need. So let's say for Destiny's peak performance, you need to have 3 reds and 1 blue first. And then once you have those, it'll appear as an option in Destiny's next turn. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting way to handle ults, I would say. It does actually make team building more important as well. Speaking about team building is basically based on the faction system. So talking about the faction system in this game, each character has a total of 2 factions where they belong to. Kind of makes the team building a bit more lenient in a sense, since you can play around with 2 factions per character. And per faction, there is what's called a faction leader. Now, how do you tell if a character is a faction leader? You can tell that based on the passive of that character. Faction leaders have a passive where they can make a field at the start of battle, and that field buffs the characters with the same kind of faction as the faction leader. As you can tell, that's basically the main crutch of team building in this game. So as the game goes forward and more faction leaders are added, more teams can be formed. Right now in the game, there's a total of 4 faction leaders. I'm going to put them on the screen right now. So you can see not all factions have a faction leader yet. Hopefully they do introduce more characters in other factions so that more characters can be, or more team possibilities will be available to be used. Now, talking about the characters again, each character is assigned 1 class. There's a total of 6 right now in the game. There's Blader, which is basically the main DPS most of the time. Wardens are basically the tanks of this game, so they can protect the other characters in your party. Magus, which are basically the magic users. They could deal damage as well as make debuffs or buffs to the party. Next are Restorers, which are basically the healers. Stalkers, which are basically the thief/assassin types in this game. And finally, the Gunners. Basically, they are support mainly, and they can do damage as well and do debuffs to the enemies. And like I said, the positioning in this game is very important, mainly because of the class system. So, as you may tell, Bladers are better suited in front of the party, so left most of the party in this case. And Wardens, it depends on the skill of the actual character, but most of the Wardens right now in the game can protect 2 or 3 of the characters behind them. So it's better to put them either in the front or second slot in order for them to do their kits well. For the Magus, Restorers, and Gunners, most of the time positioned at the back, so at the 3rd and the 4th slots. Aside from that, most skills do actually have a range. So you have to make sure that when you use a character in a party, you put them in an optimal position where they can use all of their skills. To add to that, some of the skills can actually change the position of either the character or the enemy. So it can be a pretty intricate battle system. It's not a very unga-bunga gameplay system. Moving on to the progression system of this game. I'm going to base it on how the character menu screen looks like. First, let's talk about the memory system. So the memory system is basically the weapons for this game. You can equip 1 per character, and there are certain ones that can be equipped to a certain class only, and there's others that can be equipped by anyone. For the memory system, there's actually a gacha system here also. Truthfully, you don't really need to pull for those since 80 to 90% of the memories here are actually farmable, even some of the 5-star ones. So you don't really need to pull for the ones on the gacha. But I would say that there is a noticeable difference between the farmable ones and the gacha ones. But I would say they're not really all that relevant, as of now at least. Next is the range system. So the range system is basically how you can upgrade the rarity of the character. Now in this game, you can actually upgrade the rarity of the characters by getting shards. How do you get those shards? You can get shards either by getting dupes of the characters from the gacha, or you can buy them from the shard shops. I've been more receptive to this kind of character system ever since they made it more free-to-play friendly as through the years, because if you haven't been playing gachas for the longest time, in old gacha games that have this system, usually they're more pay-to-win-esque. But I'm pretty happy that most games right now make it a bit more accessible to those free-to-play players. Alright, moving on to the scale system. So the scale system is basically how you can upgrade stats and skills for characters. So for context, when you get a character fresh from the gacha, they only have 2 skills. Now, those 2 skills are 2 active skills. Through the skill system, you can unlock their 3rd active skill and 2 of their passive skills. For this skill system, there's a total of 12 nodes, and each node can be upgraded 5 times. When you maximize a node, namely the 1st node, the 3rd node, and the 6th node, you can unlock the 2 other passives and the other active skill. So you don't really need to go all throughout because there is actually a total of 12 nodes, which is a cute reference to how there's a total of 12 tones. Really cool detail. Next is the harmony system. Now, this might be, well, not really a controversial take because there's a lot of gacha games with a similar system, but basically what the harmony system is, it's the equipment system for this game. So for those that play Genshin or Star Rail, this is basically the the artifact slash relic system of this game. And like those games, they do have substats that are randomized. So yeah, this is mainly what the grind is gonna be about at the end game. Although the good thing about this game is the substats can actually be rerolled, so less tedious farming a bit, yeah. And they do have a unique way of handling it because apart from the equipment, there is actually a way to get additional passives, and those are called sound axes. So the equipment for this game are called sound cores, and you need sound cores in order for you to activate the sound axis. So the sound axes are additional passives like an increase in certain stats like physical attack, magic attack, so on and so forth. In order for you to activate sound axis, you need to put the appropriate amount of sound cores in each sound axis. So for sure, I'm gonna put a sample on the screen since it is kind of hard to explain it without visuals. But yeah, that's mainly one of the main ways to buff your characters outside of leveling them up and the skill system. So yeah, that's basically everything for the stat progression per character. So in order for you to progress through the story, it's a similar system to Blue Archive, I think, where the actual story chapters are different from certain stages, where you have to go through the mode called Battle Simulation, and you get these currencies in order for you to unlock the next chapter or story chapters. So yeah, that's how you progress through the story. So let me talk about what I can say is the main endgame mode for this game. Although it's not really an endgame mode because you unlock it fairly early, but this is like this is the repeatable mode for this game as of now. It's called the Expedition mode. So this is a mode that resets weekly, and this is going to be the main source of pulls for this game because as it refreshes weekly, it has a new map and the rewards refresh. So yeah, it is a pretty fun mode, I would say, because it's basically like a roguelike-ish. And like I said, the map changes per week. There's a total of 3 maps right now. Hopefully they add more in the future. And yeah, basically it's a roguelike where you go from node to node. You can either have a battle node or you can have like an event mode where there's certain situations and you need to choose a certain choice in order to like progress. And based on the choices, you can either have a buff to the party, or you can have like a certain item that can buff the party in some way, or a certain character. The cool thing for this mode is per map you can only use certain characters that are listed per week. So let's say for the forest map, you can only use these characters, and then for the winter map you can only use these characters. So it's a good way to test out characters as well, because you can also use characters that you don't have in the party, but when you choose them, they'll have fixed build and stats. But if you use characters that you do own, those character stats reflect what you have them at. It's a good mode in order for you to like try out different team comps and stuff. Another good thing for this game is, for majority of the music cards, they are actually viable. I would say all characters have their uses, so there isn't really any useless character right now, because like I said, team building is very much important. So how a character does varies on how you build the team well, and how to accommodate the characters in said team. So that's a very good thing about this game. Now, speaking of the characters, I think this is the part that has gotten the most love from the developers, because each character has 6 friendship levels, and as you bring up those friendship levels, you can get basically a character side story per character. Although right now not every character has that. You can take tea breaks with a character of your choice and have conversations with them about certain topics. These are cool because these are fully voiced as well. Each music card has a total of around 20 to 30 topics that you can talk to them about. So that's a pretty decent topic list. In order for you to get a music card to talk about something, you need to get keywords. You can get these keywords from the overall map, because this game does have an explorable map. Although honestly, the map isn't really open. It's just like certain areas where you can walk and explore. You can get keywords from these. Although from what I've noticed, these keywords are only within Symphonica. I mean the Symphonica map. So there's really no need to walk all of the map every day just to get these keywords. Speaking of the tea breaks, that's one of the 2 mini games right now in the game. The other one is a pretty casual card game. I think it's pretty similar to the game Old Maid, where you basically have to avoid having a certain card in your hand by the end of the game. And it's pretty cool because you can play that card game with every character, and you can see that based on their expressions, you can tell which cards you're actually getting from their hand. So it's a pretty cool detail. There's also a drink making game. This is mainly how you can get the drinks that you need in order to be on a tea break with a character. So it's pretty important to know. And here's the recipe for you to make great drinks for these tea breaks. You can tell that they did a lot of stuff for the characters to make a lot of characters more likable to the players. I would say well differentiated from each other, so they did a good job with the characters, I would say. So now we're done with the base game. I just want to talk about how the events so far have been handled. Now, the events so far in this game have been handled pretty much similar to how an expedition pans out. What I mean by that is there's a map, and there's a certain node or path that you have to follow in order to progress through the event. So yeah, it's pretty much similar to expeditions. Right now, there's only been 2 events, and both of those are under the collab with Takt Op's Destiny. So it's a pretty cool story so far, especially for those that did watch the anime, because it features 2 of the characters from the anime. So it's a nice callback. Right now, the event ongoing does have Destiny Cosette as the pickup banner. So if you do want to get Cosette, now's the time to start the game. The pool currency for this game is actually pretty nice so far. As a free-to-play, I've already done like almost 200 pulls, and I've gotten like... Oh wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna talk about the gacha in the next section. Alright, let's start with the gacha. This is one of the bad points in the game, I think, because it follows I would say, the modern gacha system that was introduced by a Genshin Impact, because it has 70 pity. The hard pity is at 75. And then there's a 50-50 system. The difference here is starting at the 45th pull, the chance for getting the max rarity music cards do increase by 0.5. So you can think of 45 pity as kind of like the soft pity in this game. Speaking of the rarities for the music arts in this game, so the rarity system for this game for the playable characters, the music arts, are 1 star, 2 star, and 3 stars. But the max rarity in this game is 5 stars. So since 3 stars is the max that you can get from the gacha, you have to work your way up to 4 and 5 stars. Now, what's the point of getting a character to 4 or 5 stars? Well, mainly it's to buff their ultimate or their peak performance, mainly by reducing the amount of colors that you need in order to use the peak performance, and to make it stronger, basically, damage wise and effect wise. So going back to the gacha, there are basically 4 types of banners. One is the limited rate up banner, which is called Toon Score. The second one is, it's also a rate up banner, but there's 2 rate up 3 star music cards in this banner, so it's a bit more diluted in terms of the rate up characters. The third one is the regular score, which is basically the standard banner. And then the last one is the dream score, which is the banner for the memories. All of these have the same rules, meaning the hard pity is at 75 pity, and there is a presence of the 50-50, so you won't always get the featured music card. Although, if you do lose the 50-50, the next 3-star music card is guaranteed to be the rate up one. The pity also carries over to the next gacha. And yeah, basically that's it for the gacha. Having all that said, I do have to point out some of the potential problems that are currently in the game right now. For me, there's only like 3. To go over it, the game feels a bit unoptimized at times, since I do experience some slowdown at certain points, or if I play the game for a long time. And sometimes the UI can be unresponsive, so it takes multiple taps in order for it to like register the tap. The second one is, there is a lot of loading screens in this game, unfortunately, so if that's a big deal to you, take note of that. And the last one is, upgrading the rarity of the music cards can take a long time, since the requirements to upgrade the rarities takes a lot of the notes or the dupes. Even if you pull dupe, you'll be needing to pull more characters, since pulling dupes don't really give a lot of the shards. And if you are free to play, then you are forced to buy the shard of your favorite character every week or monthly, depending on the shop that you're buying from. But yeah, basically those are all the potential problems, for me at least. And for me, it's not really that big of a deal breaker as of now. I am a pretty forgiving player, I would say. So I'm willing to give the devs the benefit of time in order to improve the game. So yeah, that's the game. If you're interested, they do have a good beginner experience, I would say, because it comes with a 15-day login gift thing. Aside from that, there are beginner missions that can help you get familiarized with the game and various mechanics and stuff that you can do. By doing these missions as well, you can get the main character, Destiny. You can get her up to 4 stars at the very least. There's also the beginner banner. So for this beginner banner, you only need to make 2 10 pulls to get a guaranteed 3-star music card. So that's a good way for beginners to get their first 3-star music card. Basically, that's it for this game. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this game, especially since I love the aesthetics and the music. By the way, the character design by this game is made by Lamp, which is a pretty famous illustrator. If you play Fate Grand Order as well, I'm sure you can recognize the art, since they've also done some of the craft essences. And then for the music, for most of the character themes for this game, it was arranged by Marasi. which is a pretty famous pianist. And if you're into Vocaloid music, I'm sure the name is pretty familiar. And they also have a YouTube channel actually, and I'm gonna link that in the description if you want to check that out. Basically, that's Takt Op Symphony. Like I said, it does have its issues, but for me, it has the potential to be an even better game. So if you're interested in the game, please do feel free to download it. From what I've known, it's pretty available pretty much in every country from what I've seen. Although, of course, your mileage may vary on that one. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do have a couple of videos coming up in the next few days since there's a lot of events going on the games that I'm playing. The next video will probably be Project Sekai one, since the new event for EN is gonna launch tomorrow, I think. So it could be as early as tomorrow, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.